Yeah, cool. Our next speaker is a business analyst at UBS. Previously, he had been worked before in IT services and also software development. Also, in his free time, he loves to talk about food and traveling. He helps with organizing mass events and conferences like QA Conference in Wrocław and also Test Fest. So, please welcome Mateusz Holewski.
Thank you very much. We start my presentation, which is, oh no, another presentation about Agile. This is a very challenging task, and for some, a very ungrateful subject of ungrateful topic. It was one of the most overused words in the last 15 years, I would say. And as it say, well, you don't look like this, as I see you. People are smiling, everybody's happy, so I think it will be okay. I think I'm in the right room. This is general stream, so I will be talking to IT people in general, not to, well, you don't come here to expect some technical stuff and instructions about the program. I will be talking about software processes or IT processes in general. So that's a good thing. And my Ukrainian is really non-existent, but I understood some of the Vic's presentation. I'll be talking about, well, the same point, so I hope we will not bore us on this picture. So let's start. Let's start with Agile and how it's overused. So I have a question to you. Is there anyone who haven't heard about Agile, who is not using Agile in their work, or this is a new stuff for you? Like, you've come here to listen about Agile or about something else? Like, is there anyone who doesn't know anything about Agile? That's what I thought. Let's say Agile one more time. We hear it at work, we hear it every time, but I was asked to do this presentation, and this will be based on the experience of the stories I had. It's always good to start with a joke, and I have a really bad joke for you, so I love bad, unfunny jokes, so let's see. So you know, just imagine a village, like it's in Poland or in Ukraine, like in the village, you know the kind, right? The grocery store. And grocery store, when people sometimes drink something in front of it, when they are bored, and to that store, a big, nice car, like a Mercedes-Benz comes in, and a nice lady comes out, and a man with her, like very, very wealthy people. And they come to the store and they ask, good morning, I have a question. Do you have maybe a Roquefort cheese? And you know, the lady like, I don't know, what is Roquefort? And they answer, well, it's pretty simple. It's a cheese with mold on it. She said, yeah. We don't have Roquefort cheese, but we have Roquefort sausages, Roquefort bread, Roquefort beer, and everything. So for me, this is like everything is Agile. Everybody says, yeah, we have Agile processes, we have Agile things, and so on. So for me, it's like a dare, like tell me Agile one more time, and I'll be fed up with it. So now, we're going to talk a bit about history. You know what that is? Like, any question? You heard? These are pictures taken from East Asia and Oceania. This is people that do something that is called cargo cult. Anthropologists, after World War II, they discovered that people, the local tribes, are building planes out of straw. They are building land strips. They are building the towers. Because what they saw is during war, when there were Japanese occupying the territories or the Americans, they have built airfields. And on those airfields, a plane came, and a plane with food, with weapons, with medicines. So they thought, well, let's do it the same way, right? If we build an airstrip, a plane will come and we will have more food. So this is called a cargo cult. And we are smart people, right? We consider ourselves. And I thought we are doing the same thing. We are looking at big companies like Google, we are looking at Spotify, we are looking at the Agile way, at the things, but what we are doing, we are just copying and doing a cargo cult in IT. And this is the same, in many ways, this is the same in Agile. We think we are smart, but we are just like the tribes in the Oceania that don't understand the full picture, and we are not mature enough, or some of us are. We are not mature enough to know how to do it. So this was a cargo cult. This is inspired by my colleague. I think he was at this conference last year, Tomasz Dubikowski. Has anyone heard about Tomasz? So Tomasz was talking about this this year, and I thought I will make a small story about it because this is what I saw. This is my experience that sometimes we are just like a local tribes, just trying to copy things. Like you won't have a good quality software if you copy the release management from Spotify, right? It just doesn't go there. And you know King Julian, right, from Madagascar. So this is like there is a perfect saying that I like. Quickly, let's do it before we realize it makes no sense. So this is the approach that is happening. Okay, let's do the change. Let's put some Scrum meetings and do the Scrum board and do all the things that we need. And what Victor said, like, wait a moment. Just think why you are doing things. Stop for a moment, think, and realize about some problems. So I started thinking real hard about the IT services, about IT application, about the processes. And let's start with, this is my story. So you have a phone, and you can go to an app store and download an app. Why do you choose a particular app, or what makes you download an app? What does it give you? Any ideas? Who wants to? Rated. Okay, but in more general way. So what do you think why do you give an application 5 stars?
It's like first 10 seconds feeling.
Yeah, so basically I try to think about some things. The first 10 things, like, so you choose and see how it works, right? And I was trying to think about, my mind goes ways and about philosophical things. Why do we install an app? Why do we use an IT system? And it all comes to what Vic said just before, a value. And what brings a value to an application? And I come up with this. And this is me plus some things taken from ITIL perspective. And we are IT people. We understand this, I hope. It's not too technical on general stream. And basically, this is the first thing. The first thing is we install an app because it can give us something. It has a functionality, a new functionality that we need, or it removes a constraint that we have. We can do something else, something that we couldn't do. And this is basically why we are happy about the thing. That's why we give it 5 stars, because it gives us some many new things that are there. But sometimes you install an app, it has a contract, right? So you expect the app doing something, and for example it breaks, or it freezes, it crashes, and stuff like that. So this is for me the second part that gives value. So usually when I talk to QAs and people with quality, we focus on these things, which is good, right? This is our experience with an application. This is what it's all about. It has to bring value, so we have this functionality and we have these constraints. But I want to ask you, who is a performance tester or security tester here? We have someone. No. General stream, right. So all of these things, as I call it in my word, non-functional requirements, these are the things that people take for granted. And this is our sole responsibility as people who make software to make it work. This is something that has to be there, and this is something that we have to think about when doing our tests. And, well, let's imagine you are buying a car. Like, you go inside a car, you want to check how you feel it. Is it big enough? Do you like it? Is it has a good fuel consumption results? But you don't care about the protocol of airbags, right? They should work. Like, you take it for granted that the airbags should work. And think about the same way about your software. So there are some things that we are responsible, and people won't care if like, don't care. People will not give you benefit, give you 5 stars just because your airbags are working. People will give you 5 stars because the software does what it's promised and does it in a good way. So it's always good to think about it as a car. And this is my first point. First point is not to forget about non-functional requirements and the things that we are responsible for, and also what Victor said, we are responsible for it, not someone else, and this is something that needs to be in our system. And then I come to the things about the software delivery frameworks, about the Agile things, about the Scrum meetings, about waterfall. So we have some buzzwords here that we hear all the time about agility, about the V model. And this starts my story when I was working for one of the companies. I had someone here is working in aviation, right? Testing airplanes. Is it true? No? No. Okay, but this company that I looked at their process was doing pharmaceutical software. So this was a big pharma company, and they had a process that was very, very well regulated. And I thought, wait a minute, this is working, and is it agile? Like, why they don't copy things from the agile world in some way? And I looked, everything is perfect, everything is working, and then I realized that they are on the level of maturity that they understand really what is working and what is not in their project, in their teams. And it doesn't matter which path you choose, it just depends on your field. It's just that the problems in IT projects are common, and are common in every methodology. And I will try to go to that. So when you think about traditional approach, about waterfall, you see that we have some requirements, we are designing it, we are building the solution, and then we are testing. So it's a QMO conference, so we have to know about the testing in certain stages of all of it. It's not how I visualize the traditional waterfall approach. The traditional waterfall approach in the modern world should be a full V model, and this is how it really should look like. So for every stage of the waterfall, we have a corresponding testing part. And these two things, when you look at the IT, standards, they're called verification and validation. So my first point that I wanted to make was about this part, about that the code is working just as it's supposed to be. So this is for me the quality of the code. And the second part is the 5 stars rating, right? That the software does what it should do. And these, when you have your process, when you are building your test approach, just remember that this is more expensive and more difficult to do, and that's why we do what we do it on this higher level mostly. And personally, you may not agree with it. I think that this part, the verification part, is not a job for a QA tester. It's for me, it's a responsibility of a developer and the whole team to deliver what is promised to go with the contract. And when I was thinking about it, like, this is working. And why is it working? And what we can choose, because this gives like a good, in the end you get a product that is validated with the business requirements. That's one thing. It's not like when you are building a car, you don't test at the very end. Like we build a car, we go inside, okay, and one thing is not working. The testing is on the very, it's not even when the small part is being delivered. It's when the small part that's being sourced from the supplier, it's checked at the supplier. So this is exactly what we are building when we are building our software. Even when we are using some other components, we are using a software from other companies, we are checking it at every stage of production. So I looked at their process. They had something like this, a V model. And this is the approach. When you have a waterfall, this is called big modeling upfront. And what they had, like this works in traditional disciplines, like civil engineering. You won't build a house until you have a full project, right? Somebody's building a house here, no? Then you can show exactly what are your estimates. You have some contracts restraints. You won't have, for example, funding if you don't have everything planned. The management, they love estimations. They love planning. They love budgets and all of this. And this is a standard for many organizations that haven't heard about Agile. I don't know how it's possible. And well, there are some experts, like domain experts, and they do not share knowledge with the programmers. So programmers, they build the software, but it's all designed, all discussed before. And, well, I don't say it's bad, or I'm not saying it's a good, but there are some problems and some issues with this approach. And problems of this is, for example, waste. Sometimes you do a lot of things that are thrown into the garbage afterwards, because there is something that is called a change. And when you have a change, then you have to rebuild the whole project anyway. There is no chance to improvements. So you have your whole project, and after you're done, you see, okay, it was good, okay, it was bad. The next project are different people, different part. You didn't have a chance to be better. You didn't have any iterations. And all Agile is about iterations. There is no chance to do something better because it's already fixed. It's already planned. I saw that it brings a decreased morale of the team because they are not working together. There's one team who is designing it, one team that is building. And when you make a decision, I don't know, like, do you have problems buying stuff? Like when you go to a store and you want to buy things, some people are very like, yeah, let's take it and don't think about it. And I bought a vacuum cleaner. I was thinking about it for 3 months. And my decision was a really late decision, but I'm really happy with my vacuum cleaner, and it's the best one I could get for this price. So it's always that I think this was because of this point. Early decisions can be poor decisions, and I would have the buyer's remorse or the regret of buying things that I didn't actually need. And now, I don't have to prove to you that Agile works, right? I think that it is so overused. Everyone in this room have heard about Agile things. And what I prepared here is some problems. So I would try to use this as an opportunity to talk to you. And can you tell me what are the examples of problems that you have in your projects? Does anyone wants to talk? All of them, right? And I think it is kind of a proof of concept that Agile has answers to all of this problem. Communication. When you want to show something to the customer, when you have these demo sessions, when you meet every day on stand-up meetings, when you have requirements written in a way that have discussion. There is a discussion for every requirement that enables communication. And when you will be working for a long time, you will see that the technical stuff, it changes. Like you are in a good room, in general stream. you will think about some values, like these technical solutions will change, but some principles and processes, like this is something that that you will see in a while, that communication is a key, and it is sometimes the key to success of the project. Performance, like, do you have the programmers that are slacking off and something is not delivered on time, or do you have a project manager with a that is with a whip and he tries to like do it and deliver on time? You have these kind of performance problems in your companies? What is the answer? What is the agile answer to performance problems? Well, I would think, like, do you know student syndrome? Something that you are learning for an exam, and well, you didn't do anything the whole semester, and the last night you are opening your book, and this was something in the IT projects. The student syndrome was that the burnout of work was not steady, it was exponential. So everything was done at the very end. And the agile answer to that was, for example, you have daily meetings when you show personal commitment, so you know that the personal performance is okay. You have the work split up, broke down into pieces. This is basically, if you have a problem, I have the big student syndrome for every task in my life. So the solution to that is to break down the work, really. If you have trouble starting with the things, this is the agile answer to that with your personal performance. Just split up the work into smaller pieces. It will be easier to start. You will feel good about yourself that you did something, even if it's a small thing and it goes towards the goal. This is how our brain works, really. Late changes. Did you have a situation that the customer comes to you, well, this is not what I wanted and I need a change at the very end? Yes. Yes. So this is, and what is the agile answer to that? Yeah, that's one of the options. But how agile responds to late changes? I will be talking about that in the detail in the second section of my presentation. So we'll be talking about. And okay, I have czaszki dla samych aktywnych. What is what is a bus factor? Do you know what is a bus factor?
Where you have like one person responsible for the competence.
Yeah.
Knowledge silos.
Yeah. So I was talking about the knowledge is not shared with the developers when you have a waterfall approach, when you have a domain experts that are building and designing a solution. And this is what my friend told me. When you have bus factor is the number of people that need to be killed in a bus accident so the project won't go further, right? So the knowledge is within the dev lead, and if he dies in a horrible accident, then you have no chance of completing the project. Yeah. And this is one of the things. The agile, when you have a knowledge sharing, agile is about knowledge sharing. So you like everyone from the team can be killed by a bus, and there will be still one person who shares the knowledge and know what the project is about and what everybody is doing. So the answer to a bus factor in an IT project, the agile way, would be like a stand-up meeting when everybody knows what everyone else is doing. The sessions, the planning sessions, the demo session, everybody is on the same page. So the whole team, it creates a synergy, right, about our knowledge. And if you have, like, do you shower and have an ideas in the shower? This is the best place to think, actually, right? So, well, you can think about your project and then, well, let's come up, and my colleague is working about some functionality there. I have a idea about that. Overload context switching. Do you have your programmers that are always busy and that they cannot do and fix the bug or the defect you came up with? Is it a problem in your companies? Yes, No. Yes. No. Okay, so, and have you heard about Kanban boards? You heard about the Agile. So this is one of the solutions to overload and context switching. You have a fixed amount of resources. I hate that word, right? Really, fixed amount of work that can be done by people, not resources. And they do not switch context. They work on one thing. Tasks are assigned. We have planning session and everything. So, and the last thing that is that no room for improvement, no feedback loops, low customer satisfaction. So this is the end of the project. You show, and they say, "Oh no, it's crap. It's not what I wanted at all. This doesn't work what it's promised." And well, we didn't have a chance to show you this before because we are not agile. We don't have demo session about after every sprint or after every release if it's like that. So I kind of did it. I kind of showed that to all of this project, Agile has an answer, right? And just we need to be like doctors and like Dr. House, and yeah, you are. This is your problem, and you have to choose and pick the methods and the Agile things that are there. And now, this concludes the Agile part of my presentation. And yesterday, in the shower, I was thinking, like, what is the bridge between what I do and what I just said? And I need some kind of a connection and context switching in my presentation to go with the second part. And then it dawned on me, I need a bridge. And literally, I have a bridge in my presentation, so now I'll be talking a bit about my work. I'm a business analyst. Any of you are business analysts here? No. And I'll be talking about quality and about Agile from a perspective of a person who is a business analyst. And I'll be talking about that the quality of software starts from the beginning, where it should start. Forgot about one slide. Let's go back to it, about Agile. So there are some things and some myths about Agile, what it's, and why people are so fed up with, or sometimes that it doesn't work in the companies, sometimes that people don't really appreciate it, or I have devs in my team who hate stand-up meetings, that it's boring to them. They hate planning session. It's 1 hour that they are just sitting there and doing nothing and listening about stuff. And when people think about Agile in the companies that took the traditional approach, that have really modeling up front, is that Agile does not support documentation, which is not true. That estimations are not accurate, even though they are more accurate than in the traditional approach, because you do it late, so you have more information to base your estimations about. That, for example, when you have a requirement and when you manage the requirements, I'll be talking about that there is no process like this, so you do and kind of improvise in Agile. You take what you want from the requirements. In fact, the Agile requirements process should be very, very formalized, and it should be so good that it accepts a change and late requirements, which I'll be talking about after my bridge slide. And when you are trusting your team and you have it like you don't have a PM that is checking every commit that you did and checking every task, this does not mean lack of control. You have a team, you are meeting together, but it actually means control and means personal commitment. So you don't have a bunch of students that do the work at the very last day. That's the one thing. And there was one thing that I told you about communication, that communication is very important, is the key of success. The Agile answer to that is, okay, let's create small teams that talk to each other, but sometimes, you know, it's when you're sitting together, it doesn't mean that you have a good communication and in your team. So you have to be more mature than that to see what is the problem and what are the problems with communicating inside your team. And the 5 stars in your mobile app store is customer satisfaction And this is a consequence of your process, of your agile process. This is not your primary objective in agile, and people think it is. We should make customer happy, and it's not like that. It's through discussion, communication, getting the right requirements, and in the end he will be happy when we deliver the right thing. Okay, what's the time? Exactly 1/2, so I have my bridge now. So I'll be talking a bit about my field of work, and we'll be connecting some things from the previous. So we talked about Agile, we talked about maturity and how to choose that. So I promised in the short note about my presentation to talk a bit about requirements and the quality of requirements. And this is taken from one of the IT standards, like what are the types of requirements. In the beginning, I talked about, for example, non-functional, like security requirements or some performance requirements and so on. So these are the ones that we should not forget about it. When we are talking about Agile world, usually the teams focus on functionality, go back, about functionality and capability requirements. And it's more than that. You need to plan your testing, you need to plan your work. This is what we promised. Like this is the contract that you are doing. That except of the functionality, it should work smoothly all the time. It should be secure and all this stuff. So this is the traditional approach in one of the IT standards. When you create a document with the requirements, when you have a project, these are the groups that you put them in. So in general, there are 3 levels of requirements. There's some of the business level. So when I talk to business people, I get their vision of the product, of the requirements. Then we think about the system, about what the user will do, and then I go to the product level. So this is basically my work, and my work is talking. My work is communication. So basically I have to create and talk about these documents, and basically it works like that. So we have like a vision that was created on the business level. Then we create some user requirements. We check the law, we check the regulations, we check all the things that we need to do on this level, and we build a document that collects all the functional requirements. To quality attributes, we create, go back, the non-functional requirements, and all of this creates a requirement specification. And this is the traditional approach, and I see nothing wrong in it. You just have to think about it in the agile way. So all of the things we talked about, all of the problems that may happen, I thought, and I was thinking, and I came up with this, and I present to you, ladies and gentlemen, my agile requirement management process, and the perfect agile requirement management process. It's not in detail, it's just how it should be, how it should like. So basically I was thinking that it needs to enable communication, we talked about this, accepts the change, it supports reusability. So when we have a thing, we should always think, can we use a simple module? Can we use something that it's common, generic, and modify into stuff? I will be talking about traceability. Do you know does anyone know what the traceability is in IT? Yes, I see nodding heads, that's good. We have a review, grooming, and decomposition. So this breaking down, the student syndrome, that we need to get rid of it. And it helps with prioritizing work, it helps with planning for the PMs, for the people that like estimates, that like budgets and numbers. And we have this collective wisdom. I told about bus factor, so we want to get rid of that as well. We are acknowledging that people have ideas when they are showering and they come to the team. And the one thing that I want to show, use Agile to build your Agile process. So you can do in iterations, like let's try this thing. Let's see if it works. Let's gather feedback. Let's think if it's successful and if the team is happy with it. And the next time, the next sprint, let's introduce something else, and so on. So you can build your Agile requirement process in an Agile way, in iterations, right? This is a good approach. So this is my perfect process. I was thinking about it more and more, and I came up like this. We have tools that support it in any way. So when there is a new work item, product backlog item, we have a prioritized list of different types, and we choose from the list the things that are the high priority. And do you know what is a pull versus push? These are two methods, right? When you has anyone worked in a factory before, like in a big factory? So, yeah. I work and still working in a factory. So, do you know the 19th century approach to producing stuff? It was
Engineering and production management. So you have visualize the guy pushing box.
Yeah.
Delivering the requirements in context of software, or just pulling it.
Yeah, so that's what I want to tell you. Like when we had a factory of, bicycles. I like bicycles, so let's talk about bicycles. So in the 19th century, the people said that we have a mass production. So let's build 10,000 bicycles because it will be cheaper to produce than one bicycle in the manufacturing house. Let's have a full warehouse of bicycles, and let's distribute them to the people that want to buy it, right? And this was the 19th century approach to building bikes. So when you had like one problem, a construction problem with your bike, you had it multiplied 10,000. Like it was in every bike you produced. It was already in the warehouse. You created basically a full pile of scrap if you came up with the quality problem. And that's why, for example, you think about Ford T, the first car. It wasn't reliable. It wasn't about the quality of this car. It was about that it was cheap and it was mass produced. And think about your software in the same way. So this is what I call the push method. So you push all the things to the very end, and you have a lot of crap in your warehouse, and you have like things full of cars that have defects in them. When now, currently, if you go to a factory, they are way more advanced than in IT world in terms of quality. They were working on it for 70 years. Whether in IT we talked about quality for the last 20 years. So we have to think about the enterprise management and enterprise quality in this way. So do you know how they build cars now? That if you order a car, it's not even being built. They will build it for you, and it will be customized to your needs, and they don't build a car unless they have a reservation, unless you paid first. So this is called a pull method. So you buy it, and they make it for you if you buy a new car. And think about the software in the same way. So if it's created, if you take the requirement and if you find a defect and you don't everything at once, you will find some things. So I encourage you strongly to Google pull versus push and read about it in terms of quality management and enterprise management. So basically this how this should work, and we have new work, and this is how the process looks like. If something is with the higher priority, it will be taken to a next sprint. And this is also my work, my thing. Now I'm going to talk about one buzzword that I love, and this is very important in terms of quality. This is called traceability. Do you have, like, show of hands, like who has a traceability in their projects, in their IT projects? 1, 2, 3. Yes, this is a good audience. This is a good room because I'm talking about the good slide. So you have to connect your requirements to your tests, and this is what I'm talking. That when I'm working, I work with quality assurance people, and we work together. So they don't work with developers, they work with BAs, and we do the validation stuff, the 5-star stuff, right? We check everything, and we have directly connected the code to requirements, code to tests, tests to requirements, and this is called traceability. So we can trace which test is failing. This is which part of the code is failing. That means which functionality, which requirement is failing. And to do that, you need to have a structure. You need to connect all of this. You know, the best tool for this, if you don't have it, is Microsoft Excel, and just connect everything to it. But there are, of course, technical stuff. So we go to technical stream. We can, and this is expensive to have a traceability. But if you have a big project, it pays off in terms of quality. And this is one of the requirements that I thought we should be aware of. And if you have a problem, just then defining what is the impact of the failed test to user experience, the answer to that, I don't know if it's agile or not, just I know the traceability is the answer for that, that you need to have this structure, and it pays off if you have a modern tools to support your problem. And my answer is it's worth to invest in traceability. Okay. Anybody who doesn't know what a user story is? Should I go for this slide? Is this also? No, we know. Yeah. As a conference speaker, I need a microphone so I can be heard among the teams, right? And as a patient, I want to select a doctor so that I can schedule a visit. Again, my story was that I was visiting a medical software IT house and so on. So a background to user story. Do you know this company? Like, this is very popular in Poland. Like, they sell shoes. Like, they are here, right? These one. These one as well, right? So they are trying to. The guy is from my region, and he wants to be better than Deichmann in Europe, right? So this is his approach. They are expanding in the whole Europe. And they have a logo, and they have 3 things that are important in terms of user stories. Do you know what it is? CCC. No. I don't know what it means in the company. I'm just asking what it means in terms of IT world and user story, the context that I gave you. So one thing from my world as a BA that I wanted to tell you. And this is when we are talking about user stories, because the whole idea, why I'm talking about this, is to encourage QA people to test requirements and to encourage you to be engaged in this process, in the work of BAs, and understand how it works like. So CCC is card. It's the first C. So the user story is small enough that it can be written on a card and it can be easily explained to the people. It shows the gist of it. If it doesn't fit in a card, it means it's too big. You have to split it up to get rid of the student syndrome. Again, then we have communication, C. So it enables discussion, right? Every user story needs to be discussed. It enables the dialogue between you and the customer, and it's basically it. And the third C, I'm just really sorry I forgot. Conversation is the thing, card, and confirmation, right? So we know that we are on the same page. Good. So we have that. And now I'm talking about why did I put this picture here? I know. So this is a nice picture that shows one thing that I want to talk about. This is invest. Invest is you invest money, they grow. Lovely picture, I love it. But this is a mnemonic technique regarding your user stories and your requirements, and that you want to do. And this is what you will read in the BA literature, that every requirement has to be independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, and testable, right? So this is the things that we are trying to do. So when I worked with QAs, even currently, when we look at the requirement, we go through a checklist of things that we need to try, right? And this is what people usually check, right? All the things and the definition behind it. If you haven't heard about it, just Google it. They invest. It's lovely article on Wikipedia what every of these terms mean, because I don't have time to go through all of that. But I was thinking again, and we came up with a new thing. This is Invest 2.0. It's still work in progress, and the mnemonic is not so easy to understand. But basically, I know this is a joke, but basically what I'm trying to tell you is to come up with your own checklist with the things you want to try, how to test the requirements, and some things that you it's not closed, it's an open list that you can create for your own projects, and have a quality of your requirements, because the quality of your software starts with the requirements as well. And is it necessary? Is it complete? Is it consistent with other requirements? This is one of the major issues that we have. And one of the major issues that we have is that one requirement is telling us one thing, and in the second requirement we have completely different things, and the developer comes and asks why. And yeah, so I tell you, my job is about talking and explaining why and these things. Next thing, free on unverifiable terms, right? Everything that I write up in the requirements, we need to all agree on the definition, so we know what the term is. It needs to be traceable. We talked about traceability, so for me, it's one of the things in my checklist, in the invest, and I need to. I think it's worth it to have a traceability matrix, because that's the thing, and feasible. If it's too difficult for the requirements, we had one requirement that was not possible to make. Clear and concise, free of implementation, written in a good style and format. There are some tips and tricks how to write a good user story. I don't tell necessarily about user story, because these items are called product backlog items. There can be other things than user stories there. This is one thing. And there are some other techniques that we can use in the quality of your requirements that I'm talking about. So change cases, diagrams, if it's written good, we have some sketches, models, Kanban boards, maps, and things. But we don't have time for this, unfortunately. So I want to just talk on the final slide of my presentation and to sum things up. Use Agile tools and techniques, and use them wisely. There are many things that can answer your problems, your particular problems in your IT projects. And there's nothing wrong with the traditional approach, but you just have to be aware of the problems that come with it and some disadvantages. And you can mix and choose and pick and both. It's like being in a salad bar and taking what you fancy, and not really, you don't have to be restricted, limited to one thing only. My first point was about this App Store apps, this envision non-functional requirements. This is our responsibility. This is not something that is optional. This is a key for the IT software to be valuable, to have value. You have to think about non-functional requirements as well. So even though we are in a world when quality is checked, when we check the functional requirements, we need performance testers, we need security testers, we need people who will think about IT infrastructure, about availability, about disaster recovery, about all of these things that deliver the contract. Because you are downloading it, you have committed to deliver something to the user that is downloading it. Document continuously and late. Agile is not a technique. Is not a set of techniques and tools. that you say that you have no documentation at all. Documentation is important in the business world, and the projects, the successful projects have documentation. The documentation needs to be done late, at the very last possible point, because this is the point when you have more knowledge, when you already know some stuff, when you did discoveries. When you document in the beginning, you basically throwing half of the things to trash because you will change it, right? So this is counterintuitive. This is a student syndrome. The better documentation in the project is the one that is done at the very last moment, and this is how it is. This is what happens. Awareness. You understand why we use certain techniques. So to have a certain level of maturity in Agile, you have to know what are the problems, be house MD, and understand what the illness is, and then answer with the right techniques, understand why we use them. And communication, a key to success. Do not block it. Do not create any obstacles. We already have a lot of communication issues in our world, in our companies, in our projects, so let's not make it even harder. So thank you very much, and I encourage you to ask some questions. We have czaszki dla samych aktywnych, and we can talk. So I'm open to your thoughts, questions, and my stuff. This was the checklist, the full slide. Checklist for requirements, user stories, product backlog items, version 2.0. So this is basically Invest 2.0. My Invest. Yeah, but you know, this is like create your own list, like pick and choose what is important for your project at a certain level. But this is one of the techniques that I use here. Any more questions?
Any questions?
So you said that communication is a key, and what do you think, how we can get it to, for example, product owner if he or she doesn't want to communicate in that time that we need to communicate? I mean, when we have some meetings on weekly or bi-weekly basis, but we do not communicate in that time that team needs.
That's the common problem. Usually when you go and have many software projects, you have a customer who wants, I want to have this delivered. And Agile Whale is that you have a communication with the customer. There is a role of product owner. So in details, it gives some of the responsibilities to the customer. Like the customer is engaged, and in somehow is engaged in the creation of requirements and with the quality of work. So product owner role, in the perfect world, should be given to a person who is accepting the user stories, who is signing off the demo session, and so on. And this is on the customer level. But you have a problem with the communication. There's no time, not enough meetings. The perfect communication will be sitting next to face-to-face and talking about it, and this would be his or her only job to be in that project. But people have their own lives, they have their own jobs. So I have a couple of ideas. First of all, there is something that is called the proxy PO. You have a second person, so the buzz factor in your project goes to 2. So you have 2 people that will be working on the requirements. It creates a problem in terms of communication cost because you need to have people on the same page. But in other ways, you have somebody inside your company that is a proxy between the customer and you, and he can answer some of the things. But you have to agree it in front, give this person some kind of function or not a responsibility, but he needs to have a certain privileges, right? He needs to have a final decision as a word in this. And one of the options is the proxy. The other option is a session, so you and the team or some of the team goes. If you cannot meet online, if you cannot meet on the call, just schedule a workshops, and for 1 or 2 days, take their day, talk with them, this is my technique. So basically when I have to do something, we plan a day or two at the customer, at the business office. When we sit and have interviews and have sessions and presentation, we talk about all the requirements, and then the customer is done, is happy. He did what he had. If we have some questions that were not covered in this session, then we go and talk and communicate, but I am the proxy PO in that manner. For the initial stage of the project, that is important. So meetings, demo sessions, workshops, planning, have an additional role or a proxy between a product owner, and it should fine. Any other questions?
You mentioned one of the problem is estimation. So that's one of the key problems of Agile. So judging from your experience, what solutions do you have for this problem? If the team estimates something and then in that it happens that we cannot complete this during this sprint and we have to pass the tasks to the next sprint, and then it's a kind of snowball effect that we try to get more but we cannot complete it.
Common problem in Agile world is the estimation. So first of all, the stories, the user stories on the product backlog items that you take into a sprint have to be small enough. You have to know the root cause of the problem that the story was not completed in time and was moved to the next sprint. It was underestimated. And first of all, you have to know what the problem is. If the user story was too big, that might be that it needs to be break down into other things. Usually, the maximum you have to take from in the current position that I am is 1 developer for 2 weeks. This is the biggest amount of work that you can take, and these are usually the risky stuff, the things that can go. If it's too big, break it down into smaller pieces, take just part of it, and try to complete it on time. And again, to use Agile to your Agile process. So that's why you have these retro meetings to check how we estimated and what was the result and why. And then you understand and you know for the next planning session, you know better what is the performance of your team, what is the capacity of your team, how many story points you can get, and be better. Because it takes some time to know your developers, to know your team, how good they are, what are the problems, what is the technology used, what is the domain that you are working in. It all depends. There's no simple answer to things, right? So I would suggest to do investigation. Why? Try to come up and the best answer to this, to what I can tell you, break it down into smaller pieces. And have a rule that the big user stories are the ones at risk, and you do the smaller pieces first. Then you see the progress, and then you have this feedback loop. You know during the sprint that something is not going correctly, and there is a problem with delivering what you were assigned to do.
Hi, I'd like to ask about traceability, because for me it's the most difficult part. Can you recommend maybe some tools or frameworks to create and maintain good traceability of your documentation?
Well, basically you need to have a structure, and I didn't have a specific tool. I used the Microsoft Excel, and this was a simple pivot table. So we had a list of requirements, and it was rows, and the columns was the list of modules or the parts in the code that we were working on. And we have a third dimension, which was the tests. And this was like a simple matrix when you put 1, when there is a connection with the requirement, module, and test. So in this pivot table, you could then do a report using this structure, that when the test failed, what is the impact on the code, what is the impact of the requirements. So, yeah?
Project management in DFS. And part of the
Yeah.
So each programming language has its tools, other than the next one.
Well, basically yes. So what I want you to know, what is a traceability matrix, how it works, and what it gives you, but how to implement it. Like if you have Jira in your project, you can implement it in Jira when you have the parts of the code. If you use Microsoft tools, you have this test managers, you have TFS and so on, and they have built traceability. Just you need to be aware of the whole concept, right? And then the details will follow. I cannot tell you because like we don't have this module built in, but we use for a small project we use the Excel spreadsheet, but we are thinking about connecting because we have the code connected with tests, but then we have to look exactly at the requirements. That's why we build it outside the system, right? The third step about the traceability matrix. Any other questions?
Yeah. How to deal with the dependencies? Yes.
So basically, the traceability matrix shows you a dependency that you have. You're talking about this or about dependency between the requirements? Yeah. Also, common problem. It is that it's different thing that we take into sprints in terms of writing it down and different things in terms of releasing. Because sometimes we have to wait for other parts of the code. We have a dependency on other system. A big part of my work right now is integration between different modules, systems, and things. So we try to divide these two things. How we plan work and what we do and what is sitting in the fridge waiting for this to be open is one thing. And the releasing, waiting for all the completeness is the other thing. So we show progress, we show what we do, and at the very end we have to integrate, test, and do these things. So we try to do, one of the things that I showed about the product backlog items, they have to be independent. The dependency is not there. You can use some tools and connect user stories together just to show and to see, but basically it shouldn't stop you from getting this story into the sprint. This is a lovely picture. No, it's not. It's just many things you have to wait for other stuff, but this is not connected to sprint planning and agile process. It's when you have a plan and deliver a plan, you have certain dates that things needs to be fixed and finished, and you have additional user stories to connect these things together, right? We have integration user stories when we deal with dependencies, when we deal with integration tests, when we deal with interfaces with other things, right?